Have you been naughty and modding Final Fantasy XIV? Well, there's a new statement from Yoshi P about their usage and culture. This is coming in the wake of the whole fiasco, the shutdown, the party, if you will, that happened with Mayor Synchronous. It's a pretty lengthy statement, and I'm sure there's a lot to go over, and I haven't read it yet, so for the first time, let us peruse it together. Hello everyone, I am Jmulls, and let's get into this. We actually have a disclaimer that I don't recall seeing. Not saying I never said it, just saying I don't recall seeing it before. We request the cooperation of media outlets and those intending to repost this comment elsewhere. Please do not summarize or provide only excerpts. We respectfully ask that you link readers to this comment instead. And as always, I will be leaving a link to this in the description down below if you wish to read it in full for yourself. However, we're going to be reading every word here. Hello everyone, producer and director Naoki Yoshida here. I'd like to address the recent feedback and discussion among the community regarding in-game mods. It's been quite the show to say. The modding scene in Final Fantasy XIV, for those who don't know, because I'm also out of the loop in this one, I didn't even know about Mayor Synchronous before this all happened. I'm so completely disconnected from that scene, but it is massive. There's a lot of people out there that like to roleplay. This post is not meant to target any one mod specifically, wink wink nudge nudge, but I'd like to touch on the general subject of mods, their use, and their culture surrounding them. I thank you in advance for your understanding. I'm gonna call it now and say they potentially bring up the legality of mods within Japan itself. Firstly, while I am in charge of Final Fantasy XIV, I am also a PC gamer, rise up, and have been for many years. I've spoken about this multiple times in the past, but my own personal stance regarding mods, that I do tolerate them, has not changed. In the past 20 or so years, I've seen numerous positive examples of games with fan-made mods that expand upon existing gameplay. However, these mods are generally created with a vital premise in mind. They are for personal use only, and the individual player is responsible for the mods they use. Furthermore, the mods must not impact the core game, its services, or the intended game design in a negative manner. I personally feel that these rules should be followed by all mod creators and users. I wonder if he's going to come at this from the angle that some mods allow you to utilize the appearance of items or glamour from the in-game store or the online store, whatever you want to call it, without actually having to buy the thing. So I wonder if that's the angle they're going to come at this with. I should say he, because it's Yoshida saying this, not just like Square Enix as a whole. That being said, if players continue to uphold the above premise of mods enhancing one's personal enjoyment of the game and acknowledge that they are taking responsibility for what they download, I personally see no reason to track down or investigate gamers for the general use of mods. Of course, from my position leading Final Fantasy XIV, I still feel that it is vital for players to follow our user agreement and other rules. Additionally, I'd like to stress the importance that players follow two rules: that their style of gameplay does not infringe upon others, and that they do not negatively impact the core game, its services, or intended game design as mentioned above. It is my sincerest hope that everyone can continue playing Final Fantasy XIV as well as other PC games in ways that are enjoyable to them. Below, I'd like to elaborate on what infringing upon others and negatively impacting the intended game design entail. These are merely examples, so I don't mind if you skip over them. Please keep in mind that these theoretical examples do not single out any particular mod. Wink wink. Furthermore, this is not a criticism of those who create or use mods. The following is meant to deepen everyone's understanding of our stance on this matter. Okay, well, let's get into it. Okay, we have a juicy one immediately. Altering item and character appearances. These are particularly popular. Heck, if you go on Final Fantasy XIV Twitter, I don't mean the actual Twitter account, I mean just like, you look up Final Fantasy XIV and you look at everyone talking about Final Fantasy XIV, you're gonna find a lot of modded screenshots. A lot of them. In FF14, we have severely, extremely high-end duties that challenge players to their limit, known as ultimate raids. I mean, okay, sure. To defeat the enemies within these raids, players must must dedicate a significant amount of time and effort. As their reward, oh my god, they're gonna come at this from an angle of they did the fight, they want the glamour and the prestige of it, okay? As their reward for clearing, they earn the title of Legend, as well as job-specific weapons with specialized visual effects. Let's say player A loves ultimate raids and is motivated to challenge them at every opportunity. After they clear, they proudly equip their new title and weapon as proof of their party's diligent efforts to earn them. Meanwhile, we have player B. He's a jabroni who makes use of a specific mod. This mod allows them to bypass the conditions for obtaining in-game items, making it impossible for them to equip any item in the game, including items that must be purchased with real money. Figured this was going to be kind of the angle they approached this from. Player B is busy with work, and although they have the motivation, their circumstances prevent them from progressing through any of the ultimate raids. They decide instead to install a mod, so that they can at least see what it looks like to have their own character equipped with one of the ultimate raid weapons. Player B uses said mod to equip a set of items, which only displays on their client screen. They're gonna come at this specifically from like Maris and Cronus, where it's like, if it's just by yourself, no one else can see it, who cares? But if everyone else can see your mods, then it undermines the achievements of what player A accomplished. I remember this type of argument in World of Warcraft when they made getting certain pieces of transmog or certain mounts easier to acquire. Very similar argument was seen in that game in the community over there. To other players, player B's model is only wearing default gear, but on player B's monitor, they're equipped with a dazzling ultimate weapon. Good use of the word dazzling, by the way. Have you seen those things? They take a screenshot of their character and decide to use it as their desktop background. I mean, sure, you do you. In this case, player A has followed the rules of the game and worked hard with their party to clear the ultimate raid, earning themselves a weapon and a title as evidence of their feat. When other players come across player A using their title and ultimate weapon, they see a legend who has overcome one of the game's most punishing duties. On the other hand, should they encounter player B, they would simply see a character with their default gear, a peasant if you will. Let's imagine a scenario in which player A and B cross paths in game. On player B's screen, player A appears with their brand new title and ultimate weapon, the same weapon that they appear to themselves as having equipped. Conversely, on player A's screen, player A appears with their title and hard-won weapon, while player B appears in their default gear, again like a peasant. In other words, player A sees the rewards each player has earned fairly within the context of the game's rules. Player B sees a modified version of the game, but these changes are visible only to player B themselves, and thus fall within the realm of individual enjoyment. Please note that this is not intended as a judgment on the virtue of one approach versus the other. They're just saying here, this specific example, player B is modding the game for their own individual enjoyment, and that it falls under that like umbrella of individual enjoyment. Similarly, if a player chooses to install a mod, the risk of encountering a computer virus, for example, is borne by the individual. Additionally, mods that do not adversely affect other players, and which ensure visual changes are only visible to the individual user, can be said to narrowly maintain the integrity of the game's design. Although, of course, this is open to interpretation. My opinion, this kind of stuff is left a little bit vague to give them the wiggle room to act in case they feel like they need to on a specific example. However, if a mod was updated and its changes became visible not just to the individual mod user, but to other players too, what would the implications be? We would have anarchy, fires in the streets. Player A with their title and gear earned from hours of concerted effort with their friends or buying a boost, and player B with their mod-derived gear are now on a level playing field, so to speak. This development may not concern player B because who cares, but for player A, it considerably negates the cooperation, time, and effort invested, not to mention the pride they might have felt in their achievement. After all, their rewards are now available to anyone with the mod installed, albeit lacking the corresponding in-game attributes. In this example, other players have been infringed upon, and the intended design of the game has been negatively impacted. Although player B may have been unaware of the mod's precise functionality, their usage, wow, I've talked way too much today, has diminished other players' motivation and circumvented the game's systems. Even if the creator of the mod simply intended for players to readily access and enjoy their favorite gear, they have detrimentally affected both the game and the wider player community. I can't say for certain, but this really does feel as if they're just kind of pointing the finger over at Maris and Cronus. Or at least, maybe not pointing the finger, but like side-eyeing, going like, you know what I mean? It's like one of these. In response, our only options would be to ask that players cease using the mod, or to request that the mod creator removes the functionality causing the problem. Of course, we could also implement preventative measures in-game, but this would divert programming resources from other areas. And you guys don't shut up about wanting more content. Do you really want us to do that? Potentially damaging the enjoyment of other players in the long run. The scenario outlined above is just one example, but I hope it helps clarify the differences between mod usage within the realm of individual enjoyment and mod usage which is damaging to the game itself. Some players might ask, well, what about a mod which only makes changes visible to other users of the same mod? Synchronous! Or something else. Like I said, I really don't know about mods in this game, though I have heard tales and legends of damage meters, and also red dots. Some players might ask, well, what about a mod which only makes changes visible to other users of the same mod? The issue is that any mod which makes changes visible to others requires the manipulation or rewriting of game files, which is fundamentally even more problematic and destructive. Even supposing that this theoretical mod provided generous improvements to the game and was well received by all players, the moment a problematic feature is introduced to said mod, we must insist that players stop using it. So for them, whatever constitutes a problematic feature is a line in the sand, and the moment it's crossed, they're gonna say, no, 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 no. Another example of such a feature, a mod that allows players to freely equip optional items and display them to others. What does that say to the players who go through the trouble of saving up to purchase these goods from the Final Fantasy XIV online store? Are these players losing out by not using a mod? Yep, so it's at least part of the equation for their stance on like modifications in this nature. Okay. This stuff was bound to come up because this affects the money directly. You could argue the Ultimate one does as well, but like this one, I mean, come on, there are levels to this. Some may say that Square Enix is to blame for trying to make money by demanding that players spend extra on optional items. We operate our servers and data centers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, with the hope that our players can enjoy a reliable gaming experience. Currently, global inflation is taking its toll at a rapid pace, driving up server electricity costs, the cost of land, and even the price of servers themselves. We do not want to increase subscription fees for players because you already pay that, if at all possible, but keeping our game running requires sufficient income. If we start creating a deficit, Final Fantasy XIV may no longer be able to operate. This is an example of damage dealt to the services we provide. We really want people to buy crap from the online store. Please, we need it. Insert meme of SpongeBob going, I need it, right here. Wow, doing a voice like that after like an entire day of talking was not a smart move on my part. In these cases as well, we ask that players refrain from using such mods or remove the offending function from the mod itself. I personally understand that modding culture is rooted in good intentions, but we are given no choice but to act if mods even incidentally threaten player motivation or the viability of our services. Okay, that's basically like Square Enix. Well, let me put it like this. This reads to me, and I'm not saying this is what Yoshi P's intentions were with this, but this is what it comes off to me as. This is Yoshi P saying, look, the big cheeses at Square Enix are going to say no to stuff like this. And the moment they hear that there's something out there affecting the bottom line, affecting the money this game makes in, that we know has been so important to Square Enix as a company, they're just gonna chop off the entire limb. Let's consider another theoretical mod, one that displays your character entirely naked, egats! If this presentation is displayed only on the user's screen, that might fall in the category of personal use and responsibility. Bear in mind that this is my personal interpretation, and not a discussion of whether that behavior is right or wrong. I find it interesting he doesn't clarify whether he's talking morally or in regards to abiding by the TOS. However, if the user posts, I could just have no reading comprehension. If the user posts a screenshot of their character naked publicly on social media, Final Fantasy XIV itself may be subject to legal measures by regulators in certain countries. Europe! Insert other country here. Insert easy rage bait here. Laws that regulate the content of video games grow stricter by the year. Ain't that the truth? These laws are there to protect minors and for a variety of other reasons, as I'm sure you've all heard about in the recent news. But the fact remains that they are tangibly becoming stricter. We have a duty to provide our services in adherence to the laws of all countries where Final Fantasy XIV is available, and if we are unable to do so, the distribution of our game can be prohibited. This is another example of damage dealt to our services. Basically, if they can't sell the game in a certain country, they're not making money from that country. Allow me to repeat myself when I say that I do not intend for these examples to be a censor of mod users or creators. I only wish to provide some tangible examples of how using certain mods can damage other players, Final Fantasy XIV, and the services we provide, regardless of the mod's original intent. Yeah, basically just some examples of like the type of things he's talking about when it comes to mods and how they affect FF14. As always, we will do our utmost to keep creating a world which all players can enjoy, even though it may take time to do so. It is my hope to incorporate player feedback and officially fulfill as many functionality requests as possible. I am also considering how to increase the freedom of choice players have in the gear they choose to equip. This goes right back to my previous video on FF14, where we were talking about the announcement of FanFests. And like every statement Yoshi P does nowadays, when it concerns Final Fantasy XIV, he keeps really hopping on the fact that, look, we're trying to listen to player feedback here. We want to make this game better in accordance to player feedback and things along those lines. They are really trying to drive home this point. Again, see it to believe it, but with just like how much they talk about this, it makes me think, okay, they are at least acknowledging that there is a problem that needs to be addressed, and ideally a multifaceted problem that needs to be addressed. It's not just like a one-size-fits-all solution to all the issues FF14 has right now. While paying respect to the long-standing tradition of modding PC games, I ask that all players, in turn, respect our game by enjoying their fun within the confines of some basic rules. With that business aside, I was very pleased to announce the next fan festival yesterday. On the 12th anniversary of Final Fantasy XIV, Square Enix gave to me. This wouldn't have been possible without you, our players. Thank you all so much for your support thus far, and we hope to have the pleasure of your company as we continue along this incredible journey for years to come. And one more thing. For those wondering what comes after the Japan Fan Fest, well, I can't give you any details just yet. Rest assured, you won't have to wait long. Oh, okay. Yeah, they saw that initial reaction to the Japan Fan Fest and were like, oh my god, wait. Wait, they think the expansion's coming out when? That, or they're doing a masterclass right now of keeping people around to talk about FF14. Because this was something similar that he said in an interview back at Gamescom, where he's like, look, if you want to know when the FanFests are coming out, hey, you might want to wait till the anniversary. Maybe we'll have a little something for you. And now he's like, alright, look, the timing of the Japan Fan Fest. Like, look, we get it, right? We do. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You won't have to wait too long to find out details about what comes afterwards. And, like, the only thing I can think about for, like, what comes after the Japan Fan Fest is, like, potentially I just don't know how to tell time. Maybe, like, 7.55? I don't have all the previous, like, timings memorized or anything like that. And I can't remember if the .55 patch comes out before or after Japan Fan Fest. But, like, maybe he's talking about that. Maybe he's just talking about announcing a release date for 8.0. Or maybe it's something completely out of left field and we just don't know yet. I mean, who knows? I know Mr. Happy did the math based on like precedent and working off the .5 patch itself instead of FanFests, and he wound up at like a January-February 2027 window for like 8.0. I even asked for a little bit of clarification like what he was using as the start point itself, and he goes on to like reply saying patches are 19 weeks apart, so if that keeps the earliest to expect 7.5 is April 28th. I did consider May 19th as the latest date since we might see .4 delayed off Christmas. As such, early Jan, mid-February if the normal schedule weeks, mid-Feb to early March if it doesn't. Sounds reasonable to me, right? When in doubt, when it comes to Final Fantasy XIV, just work off of what they did before. It just really does depend upon if they're actually gonna delay stuff to really address player feedback, if they feel that's even needed to begin with. But like when it comes to modding itself here, one, now that I really think about it, it's kind of wild to just like have this here at the end of this entire post about modding. Like that completely sidetracked me, right? But at the same time here, this really does feel like Yoshi P just saying, look, for the love of God, I do not give a remote crap if you mod this game. Just stop trying to mod the appearances of store items if you haven't bought the thing. And for the love of God, don't like manipulate or rewrite game files. And so long as you keep it to yourself behind closed doors and you shut up about it, again, using my words here, I don't care about it. It's basically just him saying, so long as what you mod doesn't affect our bottom line in any way or even in any thought experiment, we don't care that much. Just keep it to yourself. That's at least what this reads like to me. And yeah, I'll be honest, when it comes to like an online game, I think a lot of this was like completely reasonable. And like, yeah, I'll joke about it because I find it funny, but like, I do think a lot of this was rather reasonable. It's like, look, my roots are in World of Warcraft. I've been playing that game for 15 years. There is a prominent add-on scene in that game. I'm not familiar with add-ons that like change the appearance of your gear, but things like damage meters, which they didn't really get into here at all, and stuff like that, I don't care about particularly. And my own 2 cents is like, if you want to roleplay or you want to like change the appearance of your character, I couldn't care less. It doesn't affect me. And I do get the prestige argument to a degree, so long as it doesn't negatively affect game design going forward. I don't mind there being a prestige argument, because if you do something really difficult in the game and you accomplish something, you should get something in honor of that accomplishment, not just like a slap on the back and Yoshi P going, "Good job, buddy." I don't see a problem with that.
Yes.
Modding is always one of those interesting phenomenons that happens within Final Fantasy XIV. Some people engage in that scene heavily, and it's a massive part of why they play, because that is how they get enjoyment out of Final Fantasy XIV. And you know what? I don't think that's a problem. I don't. If people are finding some way to entertain themselves and it doesn't harm anyone else, good on them. Life's too short to care about how other people find enjoyment. But this really does feel like Yoshi P just saying, look, just go with a basic flowchart here. Does it affect anyone else's experience? Does it affect our money in any way? No to both of those? We don't care, little bro. It really does feel like he's just kind of saying that. It's like, dude, just brown paper bag the thing. It doesn't matter. But I will say, one of the things I do appreciate from the modding scene in this game are the wild, wacky stories we get, like, I want to say once every 6 months. It's like, how long ago was an entire billboard scenario? That was funny. But here's where you come in. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on the state of modding in Final Fantasy XIV. And specifically Yoshi P's giant lodestone post on this topic that we just went over. Do you understand where he's coming from? Do you disagree with some of the sentiments? I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives. And if you want to help save my throat from turning into a cat's, like, scratching post, you should leave a like and subscribe. Follow me on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter, Jmulls. I have a Discord in the description down below. And speaking of FanFest, they announced the dates, and oh boy do we have a lot to talk about as to what it could mean for the future of Final Fantasy XIV. And I also can't really wait until they make a post probably in a few days about the specific timing for 8.0. Who knows? We might get that, we might not get it. We'll find out together. You should check out this video right here for more though. Stay safe out there, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye everybody, until we meet again.